This is In-Ear Insights, the Trust Insights podcast. This episode of In-Ear Insights is brought to you by SpinSucks. If you work in communications or public relations, you've heard of the PESO media model, paid, earned, shared, owned, pioneered by Ginny Dietrich and the team at SpinSucks. Take the next step and level up your career by earning a professional PESO model certification from SpinSucks and Syracuse University. In an 8-week online course, you'll learn PESO model strategy, effective use of all 4 media types, how PESO forms the foundation of your overall communication strategy, and how to tie communications to business impacts like lead generation and overall business goals. When you complete the course, you'll earn an accredited certificate from Syracuse University's S.I. Newhouse School of Public Communications, a powerful tool for setting yourself apart and above in the job market. Learn more about the certification today at trustinsights.ai/PESO. That's trustinsights.ai/PESO. In this special episode of In-Ear Insights, we're doing a series talking about customer and client retention with some of the most successful agency owners we know. Today's guest is our friend and colleague, Jay Baer, the world's most inspirational marketing, customer experience, and customer service keynote speaker. Jay is a Hall of Fame speaker and MC, New York Times bestselling author of 6 books, an internet pioneer, 7th-generation entrepreneur, and the founder of 5 multi-million-dollar companies. Welcome, Jay. So, to kick things off, let's talk about your experience with client services. Katie, you want to start the show?
Yeah, I know. After that intro, I'm a little intimidated to even be in your presence, Jay. My goodness.
Most of those things are true according to my mom.
She thinks you're special.
She does.
So what we're talking about is client services, client retention, and really what do you do when you're operating client services agency and crisis comes up, or even just every day, how do you keep your clients from scope creep? How do you keep them happy? How do you make sure that you're delivering without burning yourself out? So that's really what we wanted to talk about. And obviously, Jay, you have a lot of experience in client services. So how long have you been doing client services as part of your career?
I mean, almost continuously with, let's say I had a 2-year gap when I was younger, but other than that, continuously since 1988. So, more than 30 years, I've been in some sort of professional services role.
So it's safe to say that you've probably seen it all.
I don't know about that because I'm constantly shocked at things that happen either to myself or to other people. So I would never say I've seen it all, but I've seen a lot. Let's go with that.
What are some of the things that have surprised you lately in terms of the client services and what your clients are asking of you or what you're just needing to do for them?
People behave in unpredictable ways in unpredictable times. And one of the things that I'm seeing now is sort of a Jerry Maguire scenario, which is sort of a dated reference now. But there are times when clients who already have access to my team and I, who definitely need help, who know they need help, but still, because they have so many other things going on and their life has been turned upside down and their business topsy-turvy, it's kind of like a ghosting situation. And so I find myself on a regular basis sort of muttering the help me, help you kind of mantra, right? It's like, look, we can solve some of these problems that you are experiencing, but in order for that to happen, we need to be able to actually get you on the phone or get an email back. And I get it, right? I mean, nobody's marketing and communications and CX challenges are probably at the top of their list, and maybe near the top, but it definitely isn't the top. We're sort of in a Maslow's hierarchy of needs scenario right now, and social media excellence is not a base of that pyramid. So we're doing what we can to help as many of our clients as possible, and then a lot of people who aren't clients. As you know, I wrote a book called Utility a few years ago, which is about prioritizing helpfulness over sales, and we are definitely leaning into that approach right now.
How much of what you're seeing happen now happened in 2008 during the Great Recession? Are you seeing, I always say history never repeats, but it does rhyme. Are you seeing any of those rhymes, or are you seeing this being as completely fresh territory for everyone?
Mostly fresh territory, Chris, because of 2008 was a slow motion train derailment. Where you could sort of see that train seems to be wobbling, and then eventually, there were some inflection points there that caused everybody to realize, like, hey, this is pretty serious. But you haven't had sort of a fundamental halt to economic activity like this really ever in modern history. And we have clients at Convince and Convert who are manifestly affected, right? Who literally cannot trade. So we do a fair amount of casino work. We do a fair amount of travel and tourism work. Some of the largest hotel brands in the world are clients. So we have some sector of our client base who literally are unable to generate revenue, period, which is unprecedented. Like, you might have had issues where times were tough or people didn't spend as much money discretionary or whatever, but being prohibited, either strictly prohibited by the government or fundamentally prohibited by consumer psychology from making any money at all, like there's no playbook for that.
So it sounds like it's fair to say that during a time like this, scope creep, protecting against scope creep is kind of out the window because you're just really trying to be as helpful as possible.
Yeah. What I've told my team is I don't care what we're paid to do. We will do whatever necessary to help our clients. And if we help our clients, they will eventually help us. But we have to be the ones that start that chain. We'll find out. We'll figure out a way to get Convince and Convert through this. I'm confident in our ability to shepherd this short-term or mid-term or long-term crisis, whatever it turns out to be. But we have to be the ones who say, it doesn't matter what our relationship is, we will do whatever you need us to do. And that's been the approach that we've taken. And as I mentioned, in some cases, that similar approach for people who aren't even paying us. I sort of feel like, and I've said this before on a couple of conversations like this, I believe this truly, that how you handle yourself as an organization over the next 5 weeks will have a tremendous impact on your success or failure in the next 5 years. And my philosophy is, if we can plant enough seeds that we are generally trying to help people through this, regardless of what the economic consequences of that are for us, that will pay off in spades someday. Not now, maybe not anytime soon, but someday. I feel like right now, everybody has to think like a farmer and nobody should be thinking like a hunter.
Go into more detail about that. What are those seeds that you're talking about people planting?
So we are creating a tremendous amount of content, even more than we typically do, and distributing that content at our own expense as far and wide as possible without real expectation of return or lead flow, et cetera. We've done 4 or 5 big research projects and white papers. We've now done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 significant webinars as well, where we're just saying to people, look, here's what we think you should be doing. This is what we're telling our clients to do. If at some point we can help you, great, but we want you to be straight with this information.
So having gone through...
We're also doing, Chris, I should say, and I don't want to advertise this too broadly, but we're doing no cost, no obligation 15-minute strategy calls with our team for anybody who wants it. So we're actually taking paid strategists and saying, it doesn't matter if you're a small business, doesn't matter if you're a dog walker or whatever, no offense to the dog walkers out there, but whatever your business is, if you want 15 minutes of our time to talk through your marketing communication challenges, just let us know and we'll take care of it.
Have people been taking you up on that offer?
Oh yeah. Which frankly we can't afford to do, but I don't care. Right? We will make it happen. It's right. The right thing to do. And because it's the right thing to do, it is the right thing to do for us economically eventually. You just have to have patience, right? I mean, people have a variety of opinions, and I'll put that in quotes about Gary Vaynerchuk. But the one thing that Gary's right about is that almost all business success is a marathon, not a sprint. And I certainly believe that as well. And that's why we're sort of adopting this farming mentality.
No, I like it. And it makes a lot of sense because you're right. We're in this space right now where doing what's right very much outweighs let's make a quick dollar, because it doesn't help anybody if you operate that way, because it's the, we're all in this together mantra, and you're absolutely exemplifying what that means. You're helping everybody pull together. You're giving them advice. You're just helping them get through this. Having gone through crisis before, maybe not to this magnitude, but just over your career, What are some of the things that people don't expect to prepare for? So, you've probably seen a lot of weird crisis come up, just, within a company or, whatever. So what are some things that people don't expect to have to prepare for?
One of the things that I don't feel like people are super good at, and I'm really proud of our team for actually being good at that over the last few weeks, is fundamentally re-examining what it is you sell and changing that based on the realities on the ground. So we primarily, as you all know, get involved in longer term, complex, comprehensive, frankly, expensive strategic planning about marketing and communications for very, very large organizations. That's what we do. Nobody wants to buy that right now. Nobody wants you to spend 120 days solving all of their digital marketing challenges. Because they don't even know what's going to happen in 60 days. So it's a fool's errand. So what we've done instead is completely retool our go-to-market. And so now we're really focusing almost exclusively on quick wins programs. So we'll come in 20 days, look at all the things that this organization is doing, both pandemic related and non-pandemic related, and say, here's 32 recommendations that you can put into practice right now to improve the success, the impact of your marketing and communications and customer experience, and sort of in and out, low budget, fast, no BS, very tight deliverables, and just kind of knock things out, because that's what people need, and that's what people frankly can afford, and that's what people can get approved. And secondarily, we have deep, rich experience with virtual events and webinars and all of that kind of communication. And we've always created those on behalf of clients, but now we've opened a virtual events consulting arm as well, and are helping many, many big brands kind of take their previously face-to-face events and put them online and walk them through the best practices for doing so.
Well, that'll be useful, since Microsoft has said they're virtual till mid-2021. And I think that's going to be the case for a lot of events.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. You may have homogenous audiences, i.e., from one company, workshop size, 50 people, but instead of rounds of 10, it's rounds of 3, right? I mean, I can see a path to that size event, maybe, but let's go have the whatever summit. I just until we have some sort of treatment or herd immunity or something else, I just from a liability standpoint, I would have a hard time believing that a major corporation would put that together, which is distressing for a lot of reasons. It's personally distressing because, as you guys know, live speaking and presentations are 30 to 35% of our revenue. Not just myself, 5 other people on our team give presentations for money as well. So, while many of our clients are struggling, we're 35% off the top, from the jump ourselves, which is something that we have to navigate.
One of the tips that we heard, we were chatting with Mitch Joel about the same topic.
Sure, if you're going to shut down Mitch Joel, what do you need me for?
Because you obviously have vast experience, and we've just.
Well, and he's also Canadian, so you can take everything he says with a grain of salt.
Exactly.
Or a grain of poutine, I guess is how you'd say that. Yeah.
He's sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, he's sorry. One of the things that he said that stuck with me is, don't be one more thing for your clients to do. So as you're trying to be helpful, constantly emailing them and calling them and saying, I have this idea, or we can do this, is one more thing for them to think about and process. And so how do you combat and find that balance of being helpful and valuable while also sort of staying at a distance to give your clients room to breathe?
Yeah, it's interesting. What we've had great success with is less of the let's ping you over and over with email, and instead gone to all the clients and said, irrespective of our regular work together or our irregular work together, we just want 15 minutes on the phone. Pick a time. And we just want to talk about what you're doing. Can we help? If not, who do we know who can help? And make sure you understand kind of what we're doing as we go through this as well. And that's actually worked really, really well. So we've tried to set up kind of quick calls, even in off hours, where we can just have a human conversation with client contacts, and that's actually been really productive. Nobody wants more email right now.
Come on,
or ever, but especially right now.
Come on, in these unprecedented times.
Yes,
hearing from every vendor.
I want to know what we're doing about COVID-19 and our new hand washing policy. All of us are convinced to convert our washing our hands with great regularity. I just want all of our clients who are listening to know that sanitizing keyboards with alacrity. It is challenging, though, Katie, from a professional services standpoint. We're lucky in like you guys, we have been virtual from the beginning, right? We've been all virtual for 12 years. And when we started this company in 2008 as a virtual firm, people thought we were nuts, right? They're like, wait a second, you guys don't have an office? And like, wait a second, you're not going to come visit us? Because we actually don't go see clients face to face very often, even in the best of times. And we're like, yeah, it's going to be fine. Like, and if you can't, if you can't get on board with us doing this via Skype at that time or GoToMeeting, this is probably not going to work out. And over time, sort of everybody kind of woke up to the manifest efficiencies of virtual work. So that part of it has not been a challenge for us because we don't know any different. But what has been a challenge, and also for our clients, is that now you are, a principal and a teacher and a number of other things. For a lot of folks on our team have young kids at home, and that is a whole different ball game. And so what we've actually had to do is publish internally a daily chart of when each team member actually can be on the computer. When do they have to do school? When's the kids' tests? When's when's lunch? When's nap? All these kind of things. And it's a mess. And what we've discovered is that our clients, in many cases, are going through the exact same thing. So one of the tips I would have, and to your original question about what do people not do very well in a crisis, it's not being adaptable enough about your work hours and your work style. So we've had a lot of clients say, look, let's do this on Saturday because the kids are going to be not doing school or whatever the circumstances are. We're like, great, we'll figure it out. So we've had to expand our quote unquote operating hours, if you will, dramatically. And that's okay.
Have you started doing the round robin childcare yet where, one parent takes the group of kids on Zoom and does like the geography lesson?
No, but I like that idea. We had a weekly happy hour last night with the team, and people think of me, I believe, as a nice guy, and I hope that's regularly true. But I can also be a little sharp. And so I volunteered to be the bad guy for anybody's family that, the mom doesn't want to yell at the kids, the dad doesn't want to yell at the kids. I'm like, just put them on Zoom and I'm happy to correct them or send them a stern note, whatever you like, and if you buy 2 J-Bear corrections, you get the third one free.
That's amazing.
It is interesting because I think that there was this, before everyone was forced into the situation of working remotely, there was this assumption of if you're working from home, you must always just be available because you're there. Yeah. And now, people who haven't done it before, with or without kids are seeing like that isn't how it works at all. So I don't have
a perceptive point. And I hope that understanding actually continues when we get out the other side of this, that people realize that, working from home doesn't mean you're always on the computer, nor does it mean that you're doing less work.
Right. Exactly. I will be interested to see how many companies stick with the remote policies who previously said, no, we can never operate remote. People have to physically be here.
Well, over time, I think substantial numbers, especially the longer this goes on. I mean, water finds its course, right? And if we have to be primarily remote for another 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever, a million weeks, the longer this continues, with most of the U.S. at least being on lockdown, the longer companies will adapt accordingly. And as I've said, I think Chris believes this too. I would not want to be in office commercial real estate going forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In terms of your clients, when you talk about saying, just do whatever it takes to keep them invest now, do you have in your own mind or in communications with them any kind of ceiling that says, how far above and beyond you would go?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, and it's unspoken, but you know, our folks, as you know, are all super experienced in their pro. They know what's up. You know, they're mostly big agency or big company folks who decided to join Convince and Convert to have a different work style, and they know that if it's, hey, can you work on this? Can you work on that? Fine. If it's, hey, can you give us a, you know, free strategic plan, you know, in a week, at no additional compensation, like that's beyond the pale. So it's a little bit like pornography, Chris. I think you know when you're being taken advantage of when you see it, but it's hard to define it, because when you start to define it, then you always define it based on time spent in hours. And I think a lot of people in the professional services world would agree that tracking your value strictly by time spent is a reductive exercise.
At best, yeah. Given, you know, the joke is you're not paying the plumber for the 2 seconds it takes him to fix the knob. You're paying him for the 20 years it took to figure out which knob is the one to fix.
Exactly.
What are you seeing in terms of within the client base themselves? Obviously, you know, we have some folks in travel as well, and they've been asking us for you know, early indicator monitors, analytics, you know, predictive forecasting, and we've been having to tell people right now we're not really doing any predictive forecasting because all of our input data sources are so totally hosed that any predictions that's going to come out is going to be salad. Even just predicting something week to week. You know, something as simple as like unemployment job claims. Everyone was saying, you know, this morning it would be 3 million. Like, nope, it's 5.5. Surprise, you're off by 2.5 million. With your clients and the things that they're asking of you, you mentioned the quick wins. What are other distortions you're seeing in the way they work?
Well, I actually talked about this on a webinar yesterday with Rival IQ, which is one of the technology platforms that we use for analytics. And the reality is that whatever your digital marketing math is in your organization, of course, that's the side of things that we get involved in the most, whether it's your historical open rate, conversion rate, click-through rate, return on ad spend, engagement rate, whatever rate you want to mention, none of that math matters anymore, right? People's patterns have been disrupted significantly enough that past performance does not guarantee future results at all, right? So what we've said to a lot of our clients is, look, you're not stopping business. You still need to generate leads or sales or whatever the circumstances are. We have to go back now and retest everything, re-experiment everything, different messaging, different creative, different times a day. One of the things that we've been telling a lot of our clients is, especially on the social media strategy side, people's use of social is up. I think we all know that to be true. But more interestingly is their social media usage windows are much different. And so we're actually seeing clients have great success now in some categories with social media postings later at night, 9, 10 o'clock at night, and Saturdays and Sundays, where previously those categories would not have succeeded in those windows. But it's just people are online at different times. Our own podcasts that we produce at Convince and Convert, we've seen all kinds of craziness in those numbers as well. So it just, you know, it's almost like everything that you've known to be true or tested to be factual, you're almost at a brand new start, which, as somebody who has always been in kind of the testing game, that's why the company is called Convince and Convert. Actually, I don't know if I ever told you that, Chris. We were originally going to be a conversion rate optimization firm. And then we pivoted to social media pretty early on, but that's why we're called Convince and Convert, actually. So I'm super passionate about that topic. But so from that perspective, I love it. Like, oh, all new math. But from a client perspective, like, what do you mean none of the math matters anymore? So it's very, very disruptive, very hard to budget.
Do you think that, so obviously you have clients that have been with you for a long time, you have clients that know you, but for clients that are newer to you or just not as close, do you think that, you know, going above and beyond is going to be setting a difficult precedent to start to pull back from once things normalize out? You know, will they come back to you and say, well, you did this for me before, why can't you do it again?
Probably. But that's the price you pay to survive. Right? I don't know what's the option, right? Yeah, it'll probably be a problem at some point. I think that for us, two issues: one, service level, and two, J, participation. Right. So we have an incredible group of strategists on our team, And while I still keep an eye on all the work during a regular course of business and see most things before they go out, especially in the early kind of phases, I'm not typically involved at the slide to slide level, or I'm not on a lot of client calls and those kind of things because I'm always on the road speaking. Well, now I'm not. So I'm actually involved in client work at a level I haven't been for at least 7 years. And that's going to be an interesting pullback, assuming that it happens. You know, God willing, the creek don't rise. There will be speaking for me at some point in the future. But if that happens, to say, oh, Jay's not on the call anymore, that's going to be an interesting transition for us as well.
Are you finding with your renewed involvement in stuff that, because I always wonder,
that everybody wants to quit? Yeah, kind of.
Well, it's interesting. I used to be a team lead at an agency, and I saw very little of the client work that went out and stuff beyond a certain point. And since founding the company, I am the person who does the client work and seen sort of what used to happen, and then having the time and the energy and the focus to work on things now, going, oh, well, that's completely wrong. Let's fix this. Like doing predictive forecasting changed it totally from the way it, quote, used to be done. Are you finding that with your own team? Like as you get more involved in the client work, like that's not how you do that?
No. Okay. Only because we spend a fair amount of time quarterly and annually on that topic, right? Where it's like, okay, what is our style of delivering this work for this year? We actually think about it, Chris, almost like a musical act, right? So you go on tour and you play this kind of set during this tour, and you have merch for this tour, and you've got a light rig for this tour, and you've got a particular stage setup for this tour. And then when that tour ends, you say, okay, well, that was pretty cool, but now we've got new music to play and we've got to design a new tour. That's how we think about our regular client deliverables. And so on an annualized basis, we do a super deep dive on those and say, okay, for 2020, how are we going to create and deliver and communicate and perfect this work? And so we've already done that. We did it in January. Now, what has been tricky is that we had our 2020 tour, if you will, but now we have a bunch of new songs to play, like this quick wins approach that I mentioned earlier. And so it's almost like, hey, we wrote some new songs during the tour. Now, where in the set list do those go? And so that's a little tricky for sure. But the nice thing is that most of the people, really all the people on the strategy team, have been with us for quite a while. So they've played on a lot of tours. And Zonti Ho, who was fairly recently elevated to our head of strategy, is incredibly good at sort of taking concepts and putting them into a deliverable that the clients can understand, which is always kind of my passion as well. Like, I know the thinking's there, but can the clients pull the thinking out of the document, right? So the translation of the idea to the deck is kind of where I'm always pushing for improvement. And actually, this is going to sound like I'm just spinning yarns, but I'm not. I actually had a meeting with our team yesterday and said, I think our work as a whole has been better in the last 6 weeks than it's been in the 12 years we've been in business. I think the work has been unbelievably good, which is one of the most gratifying things that's ever happened to me in my very long professional services career.
So you feel like it's more less Metallica concert, more jazz band now because of the pivoting you've had to do.
So true. In fact, we had another part of the meeting yesterday, which was, look, we have invented so many things to sell on the fly that the sales team isn't sure exactly all the things that we sell. So we need to actually connect the dots on that. They're like, we got a bunch of arrows here. Does anybody have a quiver? So it was, yeah, we had to kind of call a quick huddle to make sure everybody's on the same page.
That sounds familiar, doesn't it, Chris?
Oh, not at all. I have 40 new pieces of code since this whole business started.
Yeah.
Well, so it sounds like a big part of client retention for you is that consistency. So your clients always know the type of quality that you're going to deliver because you set that bar at the beginning of the year. What are some of your other tips for client retention, whether it's during a crisis or just in general?
Well, I would say, Katie, that in addition to knowing a lot about a lot, which is one of the things that we're, I think, particularly good at and known for. In fact, we just got a new client a couple of days ago because they said, you're one of the only firms who really knows digital marketing and CX, and we need an organization that can kind of blend those. So, that's not an accident, right? So our breadth of knowledge is definitely an advantage, and that helps us from a retention standpoint too, because we can solve a greater percentage of the clients' given problems. But I'll tell you the thing that I've always really emphasized at Convince and Convert, and it's been even more critical right now, is our speed and nimbleness. We are legendarily fast. We staff 16 hours a day is kind of when we are online. Some of us are online 16 hours a day total. And when a client calls or emails, I mean, we are on it like right now, not later that day, not next. I mean, right now. In fact, all of our clients have access to a special email address, distribution email that goes to the entire company. So if they have anything they need acted upon instantly, they, instead of sending an email to their account manager, they send it to this special email address, goes to everybody, and then whomever is most readily available on the team handles it. And so we typically respond to client calls and emails in, a matter of 5, 10, 15 minutes, which is a level of response time for a large strategy agency that is frankly unprecedented. And that kind of responsiveness has not only been a secret of our success from the beginning, it's absolutely a key to client retention right now. Because right now, if somebody has a problem, they have a problem that needs solved right now. There is no, I've been thinking, I've been thinking about something 90 days from now. We're, as in the immortal words of Keith Olbermann, we're all day to day.
Where can we find you, Jay? Where can people find you online?
Right here on this show. I'll be here every week.
At least you're not drinking out of a cup with your own head on it.
No, this is a cup from our friend Jess Ostroff at Don't Panic Management, one of our associates. Why did Mitch have a cup with his head on it?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to pause the show, make a quick phone call, and then I'll be back.
Where else can we find you online, Jay?
I'm not sure I can actually get back to the show because I'm really pondering this Mitch Joel drinking out of it. Wow.
Well, people can find you at
Canadian just be egoless. Convinceandconvert.com is the best place to find us. Convinceandconvert.com.
All right. Thank you very much for being with us, Jay. Thanks for listening to In-Ear Insights. Leave a comment on the accompanying blog post if you have follow-up questions, or email us at marketing@trustinsights.ai. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review on your favorite podcast service like iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spotify. And as always, if you need help with your data and analytics, visit trustinsights.ai for more. Want help solving your company's data, analytics, and digital marketing problems? Visit trustinsights.ai today and let us know how we can help you.